Salam alaikum. So in this video, I wanted to be very open and honest, and I know that I have been doing a lot of videos that have been hinting towards something, and some of you have just not picked up on it at all, and there's not a lot of likes, and people are questioning me, and I understand that within Islam, there's a conditioning when you grow up, and if you are raised in a certain family or a certain culture or a certain identity of being a Muslim, you may find that you might question some of the things that I am talking about. To the Sufi Muslims, or those that also have a little bit more of a mystical side to them or a spiritual side, then they will understand exactly where I am coming from. So one of the things that I want to do with my channel going forward, and I kind of spoke about this before, is I really want to wake up others about Islam. And I truly feel like a Muslim deep in my heart. As I said before on many videos, Muslim to me, when I read the Quran, it means somebody who is in total awareness of what is going on and what the existence of the creation is all about, and what you are supposed to do on earth as far as be a servant to Allah. Now, one of the things that Rumi was able to do was to go and tap into that idea. He was an Islam scholar, and he definitely understood the Quran in the way that I did. So I understand his interpretation of the Quran. And one of the things that he and I have both discovered is that we are not separate from Allah. And a lot of Muslims, even though they may identify a little bit with the idea that, God is invisible, God is everywhere, God is beyond our understanding, you have to understand that Allah is consciousness, and I've talked about this in another video. So it's time for, I guess, the Muslim world to join in with the awakening which is going on, and the idea that people are awakening into their understanding that consciousness is actually what Allah is, what God is the very state of awareness. And you can start to tap into this when you really start to reflect on your consciousness. You are not just a brain. You are an observer of a reality that is put together by waves, frequencies, and vibrations and subatomic particles that are being perceived as solid and matter in front of your eyes. But they are not truly solid on their own. So you have to know that everything is really moving energy and particles. And when you go a step further, and instead of thinking that there's this outside source that is kind of sitting there and arranging all things, you start to realize that it's us. We are Allah. And I believe that actually Muhammad tapped into that. And it was written in a way where it was written for a person to interpret it in their own way. But the pronouns of we, that's used a lot. And Muhammad was able to tap into the universal consciousness. And I believe that messengers and prophets are able to do that when they start to think about the suffering of others. And Muhammad was thinking about the suffering of his people in Medina. He was understanding that the Mecca pagan, tribes of the Arabia back then, they were very upset in the idea that there were several people that were starting to feel that Muhammad was right in the revelations, and they were upset that Muhammad was such a leader and an inspiration to them that their entire system of 300 gods and goddesses were going to crumble to the ground. And in taking away a religious system and organization, you're actually taking away a fundamental power structure within that society. The elites did not want that. The elites, whoever were in control at that time, in the pre-Islam Arabia, they did not want that. They saw Muhammad as a very deep threat. Muhammad was a piece of the consciousness that we are all collectively from, that decided that enough was enough, and he was going to become a catalyst for change within his nation. And what people have to realize, and all Muslims have to realize, and I believe that we actually can be truer Muslims when we start to understand this, that we are Allah. We are the collective consciousness. Now the thing is that we have different levels of states of consciousness and awareness. So we are not technically Allah when we are in our lower states of awareness and we're harming others and when we're hurting others and we're unconscious about ourselves and unconscious about our truer nature and the truer reality that we're just not in touch with because we have fears and issues and our ego is blocking the way. Rumi had a really great quote saying that the ego was a veil between God and humans, knowing that very much so that when you strip away the ego identity of a person, you get to this very objective source of truth, of knowing and understanding. And if everybody was able to do that on earth, then we would all be one and we would all join in with the collective consciousness, which is Allah. So Allah is the collective consciousness of all souls. And let's not even think about the souls in the universe as far as, the other extraterrestrials. Let's just deal with understanding humanity. And when we go into the Quran, we actually see that there are evidence and proof in this idea that I am talking about. So in Surah 5 in line 119, Allah will say, "This is a day on which the truthful will profit from their truth. Theirs are gardens with rivers flowing below, their eternal home. Allah well pleased with them, and they with Allah. That is the great joy." You have to get really deep into your understanding. What is home? What is actually home? And when you actually close your eyes and you really think about your existence and your consciousness and why you are even aware, and you really start to think about home, you start to understand that the collective consciousness that we call Allah divided itself and it fragmented into many different parts. And now we have all these different souls, and they're all at different levels of consciousness and awareness in their own awakening and connection to Allah, that they act certain ways and different ways from each other, and this is what causes all of the discord in the world that we see. And Allah said a very important thing to Muhammad when Muhammad was able to tap in, is the idea that we were divided into many different tribes and nations so that we may know one another, so that we may actually know one another. And I put this verse on my last video of if we were Allah. And I was hinting towards the idea that if you listen to my actual words, you'll understand that I am hinting at the idea that if we actually understood all of this, that if everybody had the understanding that we were God, we were Allah, that there would be no wars, there would be none of this misunderstanding, there would be really no experience, because we would be one unity. So we fragmented in a sense in order to know one another. And this is what the world is forgetting, is that we are here to experience one another. We are here to experience the many. We are here to experience friendship and to connect with other parts of ourself in a sense. And the most amazing thing about where we actually come from as the collective consciousness is the idea that everybody is a part of you, and they are a kind of a reflection of you, but they also are individuals, and they have all of their own different opinions, they have all of their own different personalities. And when you get to the point of understanding your unity with them, and you really look out with the eyes of unity, you really look out with the eyes of Allah towards everybody, then you can really start to enjoy life. And you can enjoy people. And you can understand that your differences and diversity is actually a really beautiful thing. It's a beautiful experience and a dance to enjoy. And this is what the world is forgetting. We are so fragmented, and many people are really stuck in these lower states of consciousness and in their own ego identity, and they haven't taken the time to connect to Allah. They haven't taken the time to connect to God. And you do that with prayer and meditation. You do that in reading these books and revelations, in delving deeper into the words and actually questioning your own existence and questioning the reality of consciousness. This is when you get in touch with this type of divine truth and realization. And when you do, you are so happy and you are so in love with God. And being in love with God means that you're in love with everything and every being in the universe. And you can walk around in this state of awareness. So it's funny to me, because at this level of understanding as a Muslim, and I see the Middle East, and I see that we do have some leaders that really rule Islam very dogmatically, and we have so much different interpretations of what Islam is, that it really has become very fragmented and very divided. And no one really knows exactly what is the right path in a sense. You can follow the Quran, but it's hard because it is customs and laws of 600 AD. And now we're in a society of 2017. So it's hard to follow exactly the Quran because it doesn't really align to the way that our society is. So you have to be smart, you have to be really intelligent to know how to apply these lessons, these spiritual lessons and laws into our world today. It does not mean taking everybody back into 600 AD and focusing on just that type of culture back then and forcing that upon others. It means that you have to understand how to synthesize the information that's given to you and brought now into this time. And here is a quote here that I talked about in another video about where is Allah. I was trying to get to this point, and some people understood and some people didn't. So this is my attempt to be very direct about this. But this is in Surah 50, and this is line 19. This is in Surah 50, and this is line 16. And indeed we have created man, and we know what evil temptation his innermost self may bring to him. And we are nearer to him than his jugular vein. Has any Muslim really actually thought about that? If anybody actually really took a long time to really actually think about that, how can something that is all powerful, all knowing, everywhere, knows all of your inner thoughts, knows all of your innermost fears and dreams, knows all of the truth? and is nearer to you than your jugular vein. And I talked about this in another video. Your jugular vein is the vein that actually is attached to your brain. It brings blood out of your brain into your organs. And it's incredible to think about how Muhammad was able to tap into that. And this proves that this is a lot of divine holy revelations, not given to him by an outside source. The angels actually represent a ladder of consciousness within humans, that angels and demons are actually representatives of what we can become. So when Muhammad was said to talk to Gabriel, it really was just a higher version of his self and a thought form that came from the collective consciousness, and as a messenger, that whatever made the sun and the moon and the stars and whatever he was contemplating within the cave, he knew that this this energy, this source of all creation, could not speak to him with a mouth, in a sense, was not a being with arms and legs. So there had to be some type of medium between the idea of angels. The Torah and the gospel already talked about angels. And because the gospel and the Torah already talked about angels, this was in the mind of Muhammad already. And the idea that there are beings that are on the other side of the veil, and they represent a higher version of humanity, in a sense, that it's some that they are the servants and they are the true messengers of creation, and they keep it moving and they keep it in flow. And Muhammad was able to tap into that, and when he was able to do that, he was actually tapping into this collective consciousness that we're all connected to. And I know it's very difficult for a lot of people to understand this. I am not suggesting that I am God and no one else is. I'm suggesting that we are God together. We are Allah. We are exactly what we have been seeking all along. And so I want to talk about Rumi a little bit, because Rumi really started this movement, and he really represents that part of Islam that allows you to go into the states of the consciousness, to stop thinking about only the material world as, you're human, you're here in your earth, and you're doing your life in your own way, and then you have this outside source that's watching you. Rumi was able to actually tap into the information that this Allah that is talked about in Islam, and that Rumi truly felt so connected to, is our consciousness and our higher state of consciousness that actually equals the truth. Because if everybody was very honest with themselves at all times, and they were not covering up for issues that they have, emotional issues or ego or fear, they would always move towards the truth. They would not deny things and hide things, and they would move towards the truth. And in moving towards the true reality, then that is how you align to God. And Rumi knew this, and Rumi said this: "You personify God's message, you reflect the King's face. There is nothing in the universe that you are not. Everything you want, look for it within yourself. You are that." And here's another one by Rumi: "I am the lover of that one, to whom every that belongs." And that right there shows that he only saw oneness. He only recognized the unity within him to all other beings and aspects of God. And here is one by Shams Tabrizi: "How we see God is a direct reflection of how we see ourselves. If God brings to mind mostly fear and blame, it means there's too much fear and blame welled inside us. If we see God as full of love and compassion, so are we." I've been trying to teach that these books are kind of a test within a test to see, can you walk back up that ladder of consciousness and align yourself back with your true self? Can you do that? That is why we are here. The whole story about the idea of taking the forbidden fruit from this place of higher standing and then entering into the material world is really just a symbolic metaphor for each of us, that when we're born into this world and we learn about that story, we need to take it to heart to understand what it is that we're trying to do, that we are actually all trying to get back into this state of bliss, and not only bliss, but actually total connection and alignment with a God. And in doing so, you actually are connecting to others. And here's a Sufi proverb: I searched for God and found only myself. I searched for myself and found only God. And if you actually take out that word God and actually put in collective consciousness of all beings, of everybody on earth, then you will see that this is what makes sense. I searched for the collective consciousness and I found only myself. So that means that every aspect of the collective consciousness is somehow a reflection of you. I searched for me and I found only the collective consciousness, meaning that you cannot ever pull yourself away from everybody. You cannot pull yourself away from the unit of mankind. And this is what this verse actually means in Surah 5, line 32. Whoever kills an innocent life, it is as if he has killed all of humanity. Deeply spiritual Muslims that are intelligent to understand this type of unifying reality with one another, would never hurt anyone because they would understand this unity. That is why most Muslims are actually incredibly peaceful people, because they understand this. This was something that was given in the third book, and it was tapped into by the Prophet Muhammad. And Muslims are the ones that are able to read into that and to see that. And so that's why we have a lot of people awakening into Islam, and it's not a religion, as I stated before. It became a religion, but it is a way of life. It is a way of life, and even though the Quran says that for you today we perfected your religion as Islam, religion is a very loaded word. It means organization of people that come together under the same ideologies and beliefs. It's not supposed to be so rigid and concrete as it has become in this today's world. And that is actually what has caused the wars, is that religion has been basically become its own corporations and businesses in a sense. And so it's competitive and they fight against one another for control. And it's terrible to see that this is going on. So what Muhammad was able to do was to actually bring people into oneness. And this is why Islam actually was very successful. It did not spread by violence. It did not spread by forcing conversion on people. It spread by choice of people realizing that this way of life, in which you are brothers and sisters with Christians and Jews and the Sabians and anybody else, this way of life actually equates to peace. This way of life is what is going to actually bring humanity back on track. But somewhere along the line, the train ran off the track, and now this is what we see today. So I'm trying to be a voice to help get us back on track, onto the path of unity. And I hope to do it one video at a time to awaken people into this understanding that we truly are all connected. We are Allah. We are everything that we are seeking for. And as Rumi actually said, you are a mirror reflecting a noble face. This universe is not outside of you. Look inside yourself. Everything that you want, you are already that. Does not mean to stop striving for better, does not mean to stop striving for self-improvement. We are always on the quest to expand our consciousness and our awareness. And I believe that that's part of why we are here to experience. God wished to experience life subjectively by many, many different perspectives. And when souls are unaware of their true self, they will do harmful, bad, evil things towards others because they forget their true origin and they forget the origin of others. So when everybody awakens into the state and really truly becomes Muslims in the sense that they submit their ego identity and they lay it down for the sake of the collective consciousness, which is Allah, that is truly when we will know peace. And this is why Islam is the last book and revelations given to mankind. It is all about joining back into one. My hope is that everybody eventually realizes this within this lifetime and within this existence. Many of us are ready to be very peaceful with one another, be respectful, and live life in a way that we can only imagine, in the sense that we truly are not in a competitive dog-eat-dog world anymore, but a cooperative one that we can build beautiful dreams and civilizations together. And I believe that that can happen. And that is what I am hoping to do with my channel. I am just one simple voice, and many are awakening and joining in. So if you agree with me, and if you feel this in your heart, that this is true divine truth in the sense that we truly are Allah, we are all connected. We know the truth already when we are really honest with ourselves and we really walk up that ladder of consciousness into the higher states of the chakras of the third eye and the crown. Once you realize that, become a voice to help others awaken. You can make your own video, you can write your own articles. There are lots of ways that you can help others remember their self and remember their true origin. And when everybody awakens, this is when we will truly know Islam. We will truly know the peace that Islam was always supposed to bring to earth.